Hi, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Racing Conversation. I'm Jonathan Mullin from Ripon Racecourse, and I'd like to start off by apologising for that fact, really, because you're used to tuning into the great and good of racing for your Thursday sessions, and today you've got me. So you probably sat there wondering who on earth's this guy. To be honest, I'm wondering that myself. But thank you very much to Racing Welfare for inviting me to talk to you. I'll do my level best not to bore you to tears. We did record this live earlier on, but we were unable to save it due to some technical difficulties. So I'm re-recording it so that we can post it. I'll start off by just talking about my path into racing, really, which wasn't a particularly conventional one. My family doesn't have any history in racing or anything like that. I was born and grew up in Liverpool, where, despite having the Grand National right on its doorstep, football is king, really. In Liverpool, for the majority of people, football is the be all end all. And throughout my childhood, that was certainly the case for me as well. The only thing that ever really mattered was where the next game of football was coming from. And nonetheless, though, my interest in racing started at a pretty early age, probably about 6 or 7, through my granddad, who liked to bet and still does. He's still going strong, thankfully. My dad worked away a lot when I was young, and I'm the eldest of 4, so quite a big family. And with my dad going wherever he had to earn a living, which included going to the likes of Russia, Saudi Arabia, France, Germany for months at a time, I was very, very close to my granddad, my mum's dad, and spent a lot of time with my grandparents. On Saturday mornings, which I'd spend with my granddad, I started taking quite a lot of interest in these little slips of paper with boxes on, that he used to fill in with numbers. These were place pot slips. And after a while, I'd start picking out some numbers too for these place pot slips, and then watching them on TV and cheering those horses on in the afternoon. And that's really how I got started, through putting numbers on place pot slips. And it went from there, really. I started taking an interest in form and following horses that I'd seen win on the TV, and I had a really good memory. Not such a good memory now for remembering things like my mum's birthday, but for important stuff like Grand National finishing orders and stuff, I've always been able to remember that, no problem. And when I was young, my brain was like a sponge for form and things, because I loved it. I was so into it. And then by the time I was 9 or 10, people started respecting my opinion on races, I suppose. Nobody does anymore, quite rightly. But yeah, because I was very knowledgeable about it, people used to want to know what I had to say, and what I thought would win. The first time I actually went racing, and I looked this date up yesterday as I knew I was going to be doing this, was 25th of September 1993. I went to Haydock Park with my granddad, of course, and I was absolutely fascinated by the whole experience. From the horses, the jockeys, the colours, the atmosphere, just everything about it. I just found it completely captivating, and I was hooked, I suppose, from then on. And I was always looking for opportunities to go racing whenever I could. The following year, it was 1994, was the first time that I went to the Grand National. And I remember the day really clearly, because Grandad had told me that we were going a few days before, and I was so excited about it. But there was some doubt about whether the meeting would take place on the Saturday morning, because the weather had been so bad, and I think there was an inspection. But the weather was so bad that Mini Homer won, and just so, it was essentially a police horse finished second. That's how bad the ground was. But that day, I was so amazed that this was happening, and also 10 minutes from my house. Seeing Mini Homer and Richard Dunwoody coming back into the winners' enclosure, all the noise, all the people, the cheering, just the atmosphere, I found it quite incredible. And from then, the Grand National was something that I look forward to every year. It was like my Christmas day, really. And from when the weights had come out, I'd spend months trying to work out what was going to win. Without success, I might add. I got plenty of runners up, a trend which has continued over the years. but it was always something that I really look forward to, as do many people in Liverpool. I mean, despite what I've said about football before, the Grand National is a huge thing for the city. But although I was interested in it, I didn't really see any. I had no idea that there was even a possibility of me going on to work in racing. I had no clue that I could develop that interest further at that stage. And growing up in a city like Liverpool, it's not a particularly cool thing for a kid to like racing. Not that I've ever been overly bothered about being cool. I'm certainly not. But it was it wasn't a cool thing to be involved in, and there was no there was no way that I could progress that interest into anything more significant. Even through secondary school, it was just a hobby, which I had no idea that it could be developed further. Um, it was only really when I finished university that I began to consider working in racing as an option. And even then, when I finished university, I'd studied Spanish and French at Durham, mixed in with a lot of playing and coaching football. And after I finished my degree, I still didn't know what I wanted to do, so I decided to go back to Spain and teach for a bit. But before I went, I'd found out about the BHA Graduate Development Programme. And when I found out, it was too late for me to apply that year, but I decided that the following year I was going to apply. And that would have been 2008. So I moved back from Madrid in 2008 to do the BHA Graduate Development Programme, and then the subsequent 6-week placement at Press Association Sport in Howden. That 6-week placement became nearly 4 years as I stayed there working as a journalist, and that job was fantastic. I mean, it was really poorly paid, don't get me wrong, but a superb team, a great bunch of lads. We're all still friends now. That job was like going to work was like going to the pub with your mates every day, without the beer. Obviously, there was no beer consumed during work hours, but it was just a fantastic office atmosphere. All of those lads interested in racing, so many opinions, so much knowledge, and it was a struggle because the wages weren't good. But I learned so much in that time. And I've also got that time to thank as well for kicking off my interest in greyhound racing, which has become a massive part of my life as well. From Press Association, I moved into trading and odds compiling, initially with Sky Bet, and then on to a group of companies which included 888 Sport, 32 Red, Unibet, Leo Vegas, among others. And I was in trading for about 6 years, managing a team of traders, managing risk. And I would say that I always knew, from even before I started in trading, I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do forever. Because although I've got the interest in betting, and I still do have, my interest is in racing, and I knew that I wanted to be more involved in racing than just compiling odds and trading them. Nonetheless, I did that for about 6 years. But in 2015, the opportunity arose to do the Thoroughbred Horse Racing Industries MBA, and I saw that as a great opportunity to branch out and do something different. And during that 2-year course, I learned so much, not just about business, but also about myself, and made some great friends in the racing industry, from whom I learned plenty as well. And after completing that in 2017, the summer of 2017, and graduating in the December of 2017, I started at Ripon almost immediately after in January 2018. So now I'm coming up to the end of my 3rd season at Ripon already, and those 3 seasons have been interesting. It's fair to say. I've enjoyed it hugely, by and large, with the exception of this year, because this year in particular, with the COVID-19 restrictions and racing behind closed doors, I mean, we've had to work so hard to put measures in place just to be able to race behind closed doors. And obviously, it's been crucial for us to get back, just to have some income, some money coming in to ensure that we survive. But the race days are so strange, and it's difficult really because we spend half of our year planning here. I mean, we don't race from the end of September until the middle of April, so that's a long time that we spend planning our season and planning theme days, strategies for getting people in and getting people to engage with the sport. And it was pretty soul destroying when we got to March and all of that went out of the window. But I suppose that's the same for everybody. But it's really strange that the race days are so sterile and soulless when it really just feels like the reason why we're here is that it is so people can come and they can enjoy the racing, the flowers, the atmosphere, and have a good time with their friends. And we held the William Hill Great St Wilfrid just a few days ago on Sunday, and it's lovely to have owners back on course, and we had some very happy owners on Sunday, which was really nice. Great to get some really good TV coverage on ITV and Sky Sports Racing as well. But there's just something missing when you go into the parade ring. You can't, you're looking around. There's not those familiar, friendly faces on the outside of the parade ring. You look at, there's not people having a good time and things like that. It's quite frustrating, but I just can't wait until the day we see public coming back through the gates. Really, more for an atmosphere thing than obviously the money's important, but it's just so important that we can get people coming back racing and enjoying the sport again. From the day I got here, really, I've loved Ripon and loved the racecourse and its history, and I just really want the place to do well. Not just Ripon, but racing on a wider scale. I just want to see the sport thrive. It's really tough in this day and age because people have so many alternatives now. There's so much competition for the leisure pound, and the people have got everything at the touch of a button. With iPhones and computers. It's a real challenge to get people to come racing. But it's so important that we do everything that we can to make it as appealing a prospect as possible. And also that when people are here, to try to get them to engage with the sport. Getting people to come once isn't so difficult. You've got to provide a hook to try to get them back. Now, of course, different racecourses face different challenges. And I mean, the principal challenges for us are undoubtedly our location and our transport links. I mean, Ripon is a city in name only, really. There's just 16,000 people live here. And the next biggest place is Harrogate. But even that's half an hour away, and that's not exactly massive. So if people want to come racing to Ripon, they have to travel. And in most cases, they're going to have to drive because we have no train station here, thanks to whichever genius decided to get rid of the one that we had in the 1970s. Bus links aren't great. Bus links to Harrogate are okay, but to everywhere else, they're not brilliant. And we do offer a discount to anybody who's travelling by public transport or by bike as part of our green scheme. But if someone's coming from Leeds or they're coming from York, it's going to take them about 2 hours to get here by public transport. So really, their only option is to drive. And as a result of that, I mean, constantly our big days are huge for us. We kick off the Go Racing in Yorkshire Summer Festival every year on the middle Saturday in July, and that's a huge day. The William Hill Great St Wilfrid also. We really rely on getting decent crowds in on those days. That's our bread and butter, and it's our. We just hope and pray that when racing does return to any semblance of normality, that those big fixtures retain their popularity, because it's crucial to us. We get the crowds of people, the coach parties and groups of friends and families. They really make those big Saturdays a focal point of their year, and we just hope that returns. Family days are also a big part of what we offer. We had 4 scheduled in for this year, and we should be preparing for the biggest one of those right now, which should be taking place on Bank Holiday Monday in a week and a bit's time. But needless to say, there'll be nobody here. That'll be behind closed doors again for the EBF Ripon Champion 2-year-old trophy. I mean, we're under no illusions that next year is going to be very challenging too. Even aside from any continuing COVID considerations and restrictions, there's going to be countless economic factors to consider. I mean, recession is going to continue for quite a while, and Brexit uncertainty and quite a lot of things to consider. So we're under no illusions that it's going to be really, really difficult. But it does also present an opportunity, I think, for racing to to, to reboot almost, and to promote ourselves as a safe, predominantly outdoor activity. I mean, it's important that we're cost friendly, and kids going free is a big benefit. And most courses, most places, families can take a picnic. So hopefully from this situation we'll be able to generate a bit of a buzz about going racing, promote it as a safe outdoor activity, which is good fun for people to do, and with the help of the great organisations like Racing to School, Racing Together, and Great British Racing, hopefully we can create some racing fans of the future and come out of this situation in a stronger position than we started it. But that's all from me. Thank you to everybody for listening. This went on for a little bit longer this morning with a few questions, but I'll wrap it up there. And thanks for having me. Take care, stay safe, and we hope to see you all very